Welcome back. Thom Hartmann here with you. There is a lot going on in the news and in the world today. I want to cover some of these things, but also I want to put it in a larger context, in a larger frame, and that is how, as I quoted Mark Twain, I think it was on Monday, in the op-ed I wrote for Alternet about how this is hardly the America that I grew up in. The America that I knew is largely gone. The small d democracy, the functioning democracy, is largely gone. And we should have seen the warning signs coming. And whether it's the defunding of the Children's Health Insurance Program, or whether it's the tax cut that's going to cut into both Medicare and Social Security, whatever it may be, and of course give great tax benefits to rich people and raise taxes on the working poor. No matter what it is, this is part of an old and long story. And Harry Truman addressed this in a big way a number of times. And I want to play a couple of clips from Harry Truman's his acceptance address. This was in 1948. He was the president of the United States at that point in time, but only because Franklin Roosevelt had had a stroke and died in office. And so it was really his first. Harry Truman, first of all, he'd only been vice president for a couple of years. He was the third vice president that F.D.R. had. And secondly, it was his first run for the White House. And so he's just, he's running for president on, okay, I've been president for a couple of years here, but, we've got to move this country forward, and we're going to take on the Republicans. So this is Harry Truman, the president of the United States in 1948, accepting the Democratic nomination for his second term as president, which, of course, he won. Here he is.
The people know the Democratic Party is the People's Party, and the Republican...
Yeah, I'm going to start that over again. Here we go.
The people know the Democratic Party is the People's Party, and the Republican Party is the party of special interest, and it always has been and always will be.
Yeah, and apparently and it always will be is, like, shockingly true.
I'd like to say a word or two now about what I think the Republican philosophy is. And I'll speak from actions and from history and from experience. The situation in 1932 was due to the policies of the Republican Party control of the government of the United States.
That would be the Great Depression, Mr.
The Republican Party, as I said a while ago, favors the privileged few and not the common everyday man. Ever since its inception, that party has been under the control of special privilege, and they concretely proved it in the 80th Congress.
This was the one where they...
The field of labor, we needed moderate legislation to promote labor management harmony. But Congress instead passed that so-called Taft-Hartley Act, which has disrupted labor management relations and will cause strife and bitterness for years to come if it's not repealed, and the Democratic platform says it ought to be repealed.
There you go. They've been calling for the repeal of Taft-Hartley ever since 1948, but it's still the law of the land, unfortunately.
I tried to strengthen the Labor Department. The Republican platform of 1944 said if they were in power, they'd build up a strong Labor Department. You know what they've done to the Labor Department? They've simply torn it up. There's only one bureau left that's functioning, and they cut the appropriation on that, so it can't hardly function. I recommended an increase in the minimum wage. What'd they get? Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
So this is not new.
I suggested that the schools in this country are crowded, teachers underpaid, that there are a shortage of teachers. One of the greatest national needs, more and better schools. I urge the Congress to provide $300 million to aid the states in meeting the present educational crisis.
And what did they do?
Congress did nothing about it.
Nothing about it. This is the 2 years Republicans...
Time and again, I've recommended improvements in Social Security law, including extending protection to those not now covered, increase the amounts of the benefits, reduce the eligibility age of women from 65 to 60 years, Congress studied the matter for 2 years but couldn't find time to extend the increased benefits, but it did find time to take Social Security benefits away from 750,000 people. And they passed that over my veto.
Right. And this was the 2 years that the Republicans controlled the House of Representatives, 47-48. The only 2
I've
years.
repeatedly asked the Congress to pass a health program. The nation suffers from lack of medical care. That situation can be remedied anytime the Congress wants to act upon it.
Harry Truman actually proposed single-payer health care in 48.
Everybody knows that I recommended to the Congress a civil rights program. I did so because I believe it to be my duty under the Constitution. Some of the members of my own party disagree with me violently on this matter,
Like
but they
Thurman.
stand up and do it openly. People can tell where they stand, but the Republicans all profess to be for these measures. But the 80th Congress didn't fail to act, and they had enough men there to do it, and they could have had cloture. They didn't have to have a filibuster. There are enough people in that Congress that would vote for cloture.
The Republicans.
Now, everybody would like to have low taxes. But we must reduce the national debt in times of prosperity. And when tax relief can be given, it ought to go to those who need it most and not go to those who need it least, as this Republican rich man's tax bill did when they passed it over my veto on the third try.
This is 1948. Are you starting to feel deja vu-ish? I mean, just listen to this list of issues. He continues.
The first one of these tax bills they sent me was so rotten that they couldn't even stomach it themselves. They finally did send one that was somewhat improved, but it still helps the rich and sticks the knife into the back of the poor. The Republican platform urges extending and increasing Social Security benefits. Think of that. Increasing Social Security benefits, and yet when they had the opportunity, they took 750,000 people off the Social Security roll.
The Republicans cut people from Social Security in 48.
I wonder if they think they can fool the people of the United States with such poppycock as that.
Yeah, they do think they can do it, and they've been doing it ever since 48.
The American people will not decide by listening to mere words or by reading a mere platform. They'll decide on the record as it has been written.
If the media would report.
And in the record is the stark truth that the battle lines of 1948 are the same as they were back in 1932, when the nation lay prostrate and helpless as a result of Republican misrule and inaction. In 1932, we were attacking the citadel of special privilege and greed. We were fighting to drive the money changers from the temple. Today, in 1948, we are now the defenders of the stronghold of democracy and of equal opportunity, the haven of the ordinary people of this land, and not of the favored classes or the powerful few.
There you go. So that was Harry Truman in 1948 accepting the Democratic Party's nomination to run as their candidate for President of the United States for a second term. He accepted the nomination. He won. They used to call him Give him hell, Harry. And Harry Truman famously said, you know, they say I like to give them hell, but I just tell the truth and they think it's hell. The they that he's speaking of course, being the Republican Party and the Republicans. But what we're seeing here, I mean, Harry Truman just went through this list. They're tearing apart the Labor Department. Surprise! I mean, Reagan put that on steroids, but they're still working at it. You got an anti-labor guy running the Labor Department right now. They're cutting taxes on the rich and saying that they're cutting taxes for ordinary people and lying to us. They want to cut Social Security. In fact, they did cut Social Security in 1948, the Republicans. Harry Truman vetoed it, and they passed it again over his veto.